Greetings and welcome to the Talk with History podcast. I am your host, Scott, here with my wife and historian, Jen.
Hello.
On this podcast, we talk about history's continuing impact on us and our personal journey through YouTube as we continue to explore, record, and share our history walks with you. Real quick, before we get into our main topic, I want to lead off with our 5-star question of the week. And we're still looking for iTunes reviews out there. We're a couple episodes ahead. Haven't gotten quite any 5-star reviews, although there was a couple. There was 2 nice ones left on there by myself and by you, Jen. So if you want to have a question answered on this podcast, I will do my best to answer it if you leave us a review on iTunes. So please leave us a review. It helps the show grow, and share this podcast. Now, the 1980s was full of big hair, neon clothes, loud bands, and louder rock and roll. The band Poison helped define the crazy culture around those 1980s hair bands, and it had multiple big hits. But did you know that the lead singer of Poison was from a small town not far from Jen's hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? It's no wonder that my wife has always had a childhood crush on the man that sang for Poison, and he came from a small town called Mechanicsburg, PA. So Jen, why don't you tell us about who we are talking about today?
So we are going to talk about Bret Michaels Sychek, and you would know him just as Bret Michaels. And I have always, when it comes down to the 80s hair bands that I love, Poison is number one, and because Bret Michaels is their front man, he's number one. But did you even know who Bret Michaels was before?
I had zero clue who Bret Michaels was, and now I have seen Bret Michaels in concert, in person, at least 3 times.
Yes. We actually saw him like 3rd row in San Diego.
Yeah, that was pretty good. The last time we saw him at a tiny little casino somewhere in Mississippi.
Yeah.
That was not very good. I thought it was good. He's getting a little long on the tooth.
Yeah.
He was like coughing and hacking up a lung.
He said he was getting over being sick.
He was getting, okay. Well, he's been around for a while. It was very good. It was very loud, right? Because, his audience, he knows his demographic. So he's got to turn the music up a little bit louder. But no, I had no clue who Bret Michaels was. So why don't you tell us who he was?
So he was just a small town Pennsylvania boy. So I am from Pittsburgh, and Bret Michaels was born in Butler, Pennsylvania, which is closer to Pittsburgh. But it's when he's 5 or 6 years old that his family moves to Mechanicsburg. And Mechanicsburg is a little bit farther away from Pittsburgh. It's more towards Harrisburg. So it's
and Mechanicsburg, it's a little bit bigger city, right?
Yeah, and it's on the other side of the state. So it's closer to Gettysburg, the eastern side of Pennsylvania, where Pittsburgh is the western side of Pennsylvania. So he's moving eastern. And
he moved there because his dad was in the Army?
Navy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Navy.
Navy. There we go. I like Bret Michaels just a little bit more now.
So that is where he's living when he gets diagnosed with diabetes. They take him to Harrisburg. They take him to the hospital there. He's sick at 6 years old, and they can't figure out why. He takes him to the hospital. In 3 weeks, he's there, and he gets diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And if you know anything about Bret Michaels, he's pretty open about that diagnosis. Yeah. And so that's where he grows up. And I just take him as a small town Pennsylvania guy. Loves sports, loves the Steelers, loves to hunt, loves all those kind of Pennsylvania things, and he gets a band together. Now, in the video, we go to his house on Hemlock Drive, which is easy to find the address.
Yeah, we drove to Mechanicsburg on our way back from Washington, D.C.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And we give a little history about Mechanicsburg, like why is it called Mechanicsburg?
That was actually really interesting. Can you remind?
The Conestoga wagons, when they would travel west.
Remind me what the Conestoga wagons were again.
When people would, the wagons, like when people would travel west across America to go homestead.
Okay, so like back when people were actually discovering the
Yeah,
West. Okay.
old wagons with wagon wheels.
Yeah.
Mechanicsburg is usually the place people would stop to get things fixed.
Yep.
That's where the mechanics were.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting
Yeah.
because it makes so much sense. You're like, oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, very basic. But we go to his home where he grew up. He was there from the age of 6 to the age of 17. So from 1969 to 1981, because he's born in 1963, March 15th, 1963. So he does most of his high school there and everything. And he doesn't live there now. There's nobody connected to him there now. But that house faced a fire.
That's right.
So it was kind of rebuilt since he's lived there. But we just kind of stood outside there and talked about it.
we found his house. We found his old high school.
Yeah, so we go to his high school.
Yeah.
So he went to Mechanicsburg area high school. And he graduated. He's class of 1981. And it's at that time he puts together a band. And it's called Paris.
That's right.
And he gets some guys from high school, Ricky Rocket and Bobby Dahl.
So now, were they from Mechanicsburg as well?
Yeah, that area.
Yeah, they were from the general area.
And then another guy, too, who eventually will leave to come back to Mechanicsburg from LA. And that's when CeCe will step in.
Okay.
And so they
CeCe was the guitarist.
the guitarist, where they have this huge.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's where the two people can't get along, but they make magic together.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's that drama, that anxiety that you feel with each other can be like amazing and can also be terrifying.
It's like riding a wild horse.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like hanging on. While you're hanging on, it's like, man, that's incredible.
Yes.
Until someone gets bucked off.
Yeah. And then it can be toxic.
Yeah.
So it's 1983. So they graduated high school 81, hanging around the area playing with their band Paris in 83. Then they figure we need to go for it. We're going to go to LA. So this is 84.
Yeah, so this is like classic 80s
Yeah.
movie, want to start a rock band, make it big. This is
yeah.
classic story.
Whiskey a
This is like
Go-Go.
100% 80s.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm from nowhere, Pennsylvania. I got my band. We're going to Hollywood. We're going to make it big.
We're living in the van. We're going to the Sunset Strip. And we're going to play these places. And we're going to hope that we make it big. And they do. Right. And so that's their guitarist leaves because he wants to go back to Mechanicsburg, be with his girlfriend, I think. And then that's when CeCe steps in and becomes the guitarist. And they just make it. They start.
Yeah, and not only is their music big and loud and of the time and really good, but they kind of have a little bit of the shtick of like really kind of prettying themselves up, like really that almost metrosexual.
Oh, so much.
You know.
So one of my earliest memories is seeing the cover of Look What the Cat Dragged In. And
Yeah.
if you ever saw that cover, it's the four of them, but so androgynous, right? You can't tell if it's a man or a woman.
Yeah.
And I must have been like 7 or 8, like looking at this cover, and I couldn't tell. I knew they were guys because I heard their music, but I'm looking at this cover going, is that a guy or
Because they're wearing makeup, they're all the
Tons,
stuff,
long
and
hair.
Bret Michaels, like, and honestly, like Bret Michaels kind of came up with like the pouty face look,
Yeah, like that duck face.
that little like go look him up, right? Some of his most famous
Yeah.
pictures has that little pouty lips, things that like women do today, like that. Like he kind of came up with that.
He did. He totally does it. So we go to his house. We go to the high school, and then we end up going to like the park where he would do the community park where the pool was, where the high school football field was. Because before they had a high school football field at their high school, they actually played at that park.
Yeah.
So we go to that park. So those are the places we go in Mechanicsburg and talk about him. But just the thing that I like about Bret Michaels, so yes, we've seen him a lot. I've seen him in San Diego. I've seen him in Pittsburgh. I've seen him in Mississippi with you. And then I saw him in Memphis at Graceland.
That's right.
And I went by myself, remember? And I had met some great people there. And I actually got to meet Bret Michaels.
Yep.
And he actually brought me on stage for Something to Believe In because I'm a veteran. I'm a Navy veteran.
Yeah, that's like kind of what that song's about.
Yes, and he loves veterans.
Yeah.
He loves the military, and he was the nicest guy. Like you can you imagine people are, but he really is genuine, nice, cared about what I had to say, was interested, like listening to me talk, like wasn't looking like he was done or needed to go somewhere. Like really was the nicest guy.
And even with the first time I really got a true introduction to Bret Michaels was when he was on Rock of Love.
Yes, 2007.
2007.
We just got married.
We had just been married, and so we just started watching the show. Like that, we actually watched that
saying,
show pretty ridiculous.
If I wasn't married, Scott, I'd totally be on the show.
And so he's on the show, and he's like typical single, like kind of still sort of a rock star, kind of past that. And again, that was early on with shows like that. Right?
Yeah.
There hadn't been too many shows. Quite
like kind of like a Bachelor kind of show, but it hadn't really been done. But so he's a genuine guy, and you can even see it on that show. He is interested. He likes women.
Oh, for sure.
He doesn't make that.
No, he's there's no bones about it.
Yeah,
he was there for the pretty girls.
He likes women, and he likes all women, and he's very like equal opportunity women liker, and he is open to talking to all of them and giving them all his time, and he doesn't seem to like discriminate against any type of woman. Not at all. He seems totally like chill about that. He's done a lot of like he did Cribs. So if you watch his Cribs,
oh, okay, I don't think I saw that.
He totally is seems completely chill, and he won Celebrity Apprentice.
That's right,
in 2010
with then just Donald Trump.
Yeah. He won it.
That's right. I
all
forgot
the celebrities.
About that. Oh my gosh.
Again, I think that genuine goodness that he's just a good guy comes out.
Yeah.
And he won that whole show.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So now, Jen, I have to ask you something. Do you remember kind of my initial introduction to 80s music?
Oh my gosh.
Through you.
Is it the CDs I bought you?
Yes. So for those who are listening who aren't familiar with Jen and I, right? So she's a couple years older than me. And
I'm a Puma. I'm not a
so she introduced me to 80s music. And she gave me a couple CDs, and one of them was Chicago. I don't even remember. Styx. And
classic
so
80s.
so like of the time, right, when we first started dating, right, nobody really had like iPods or anything like that yet, and so we had CDs. And so she circled, hey, listen to these songs. These are the classic Styx ones. This is you gave me a couple CDs. Yeah. And so I'm driving up from San Diego, to visit my mom. I think up in the LA area, my mom or dad or something like that. And I start playing Styx, and one of the ones you circled was Babe.
It's like this. So it's the second song on the CD. So first of all, you picked that CD first, and it's the second song on the CD.
And I don't know any of these bands.
Yes,
none whatsoever. And so, Babe, it's a kind of power ballad love song.
Yeah, I mean, it is Styx's song.
Right.
That song is Styx's song.
And it's a great song now that I know it. But at the time, we were relatively newly dating. We had been dating for a month.
And this was Christmas, so I had gotten you these CDs for Christmas.
She had gotten me these CDs and said, listen to them. And so I'm driving down the 10 freeway. I'm driving on the 10 West. had the CD in. I'm driving in my 1998 Pathfinder, right? I'm driving on the 10 West.
And if you know the lyrics of Babe.
And it's like, Babe, I love you, whatever. And so I'm hearing these lyrics, and I freak out. And I'm like, oh my God. And here I am, 22, 23 years old, just dating you for a month. And I was like, she's giving me love songs. So I freak out. So I take all 2 or 3 CDs, and I literally throw them out of my window on the 10 freeway. And I was just like, I panicked. I had a little panic attack.
I got you Journey, I think. Yeah. I forget what other ones. I think I got you Meatloaf.
Yeah. I don't remember what you got me because they are dust somewhere on the 10 freeway.
You're so funny. So I think you called me and you had said something like that. And I was like, what? And you were like, yeah, that Styx song, Babe. I'm like, Babe, yeah, it's a great song. And you're like, you know the lyrics? I'm like, yeah, it's a love ballad. It's one of those 80s love ballads. And he's like,
I just did not
Were you trying to say that to me? And I was like, no.
Yeah, I did not understand the music or the times or anything. I was quite young and naive.
Yeah, it was funny.
So that was my introduction really to 80s music. And then eventually we listened to it together more. And I found bands like Poison and Whitesnake. And
you loved Whitesnake.
And like, so I found those like a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. I wasn't as much as a power ballad guy. But this video was so much fun because it really honestly wasn't really for the history. Yeah. We did it just because we wanted to do it. And that's part of the fun of doing YouTube and doing these videos. And if you're listening to this for some of what we're learning through YouTube, sometimes you just have to make a video that might be close, right? We touched on some history, Mechanicsburg, right?
His life. Yeah.
And his life. And we even joked like, hey, we hesitate to call this history, but here we are in the hometown of our favorite.
But if you have someone that you love, like a band that you love, that you always wonder where they started,
right? Where
they, all come together at. That's kind of historic. I mean, you can think about big bands. I mean, Poison is by no means like a huge influencer like the Beatles or something, but people want to know how those people come together. And even Beatles songs, right? People will find out where those names come from. And
sure. I mean, it's a little bit of like VH1 like behind the music.
Yes, it was very much like behind the music. We were kind of doing behind the music.
Right.
And so when we go to the park, Bret's father had recently passed away.
That's right.
Wally Sychek.
I mean, literally just like a year prior.
So he passed away the same month and year as my dad.
Yeah.
And you can find these things online. You can find where his father is buried. And I didn't want to go there, but you can. And so I actually put the flags, and his father was in the Navy, so important to us. And he did the same thing for his father's wake that I did, told everyone to wear Steelers gear, right? And we did the same thing for my dad. Yeah. So I just felt this kind of connection. So we brought some flags and put them in the park.
Yeah, we didn't want to go to the grave.
Yeah, we just didn't think that was appropriate. Yeah. And his family still lives close by. They live in Camp Hill, which is close to Mechanicsburg. So his mom and his stepdad, they still live close by. And he visits like all the time. If you follow him on Facebook or Instagram, like he goes to his mom's house a lot because he visits his dad's grave a lot. But yeah, I mean, I followed him so much. Bret has kind of dabbled in things, and he dabbled in movies, and he made this movie called A Letter from Death Row, and I own it.
Don't you have like the poster of it or something?
I have the movie.
You have the DVD.
I have the DVD.
That's right.
And I have the DVD of all the Poison videos.
Yeah, you do.
This movie is terrible. And it's funny because he's really good friends with Charlie Sheen. Like they would party together. So Charlie Sheen is in the movie and he's good. Yeah. But somehow they got Martin Sheen to be in it too. Oh my gosh. And he plays Bret's dad. And that's like the only good scene in the whole movie.
Is where he's in it.
Is where Martin Sheen's in it. I'm like, oh, you can tell who the real actor are. And but his wife is in it, or his long-term girlfriend, Christy, is in it. And that's also the mother of his daughters. Okay. So when we saw him in San Diego, I remember he brought his daughters out on stage. They were young then. And then when I saw him again in Memphis, his daughter, she goes to, I think, Vanderbilt.
Oh, wow.
So she was there.
Okay.
So I feel like I've grown up with Bret Michaels.
You have.
I have.
Yeah. You've even made some friends that are kind of like Bret Michaels groupies and stuff.
Oh, I've met some groupies, and we still are in touch.
Yeah.
And we still can't wait to go to another concert.
That just cracked me up.
And but he's done a lot of stuff with the military. I just really appreciate him, and so I like to just put the word out about him, like don't forget him. But I know after you saw him in Mississippi, I'm on my own now.
You are on your own if you ever want to go see Bret Michaels live, unless he wants to do like something at a small bar that's more acoustic or something. But you were on your own. So yeah, this was just a fun one to do because we drove around kind of a small town in Pennsylvania. It was on the way back. And it was just kind of fun to do.
We let the kids have a break.
Yep.
Right? They ran around that park and played on the playground. Yeah. And so we were able to film around.
Yeah, we saw Bret Michaels' like favorite pizza shop. Yeah. And, it was very neat. And so Bret Michaels, he started in a small town, but he dreamed big and brought his dreams to life on the world stage that was the rock and roll of the 1980s. And not only did he eventually capture Jen's heart, but he continues to capture the heart of his fans and us through his support of the military, his hometown ethics, Steeler fandom, and yes, every time we hear him sing "Every Rose Has Its Thorn," we think of him and the band Poison. So thank you for listening to the Talk with History podcast today. Please reach out to us at our website, talkwithhistory.com. That's talkwithhistory.com. But more importantly, if you know someone that might enjoy this podcast, particularly if they are a Bret Michaels fan or a fan of 1980s hair band music, please share this with them, that we grow through you, our fans, through our listeners. Tell them to look up the Talk with History podcast, or better yet, text them a direct link to today's episode anywhere that you get podcasts. We rely on you, our community, to grow, and we appreciate you all every day. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.